Imagine it's a beautiful day, you're driving with your windows down, listening to music with your best friend, and then out of nowhere, a truck plows through a stop sign. You had your seatbelt on, but your best friend didn't, and they are thrown from the car. You now live with the guilt of not telling them to put on your seatbelt for the rest of your life. This could be a reality if you don't wear your seatbelt at all times. Seatbelts protect drivers and passengers in vehicles from being injured, or even death, in the case of an accident. Driving is a huge part of my life. It's something that makes me feel free. I got my license when I was 16, and every single time I get into the car, the first thing I always do is put on my seatbelt. My brother and mom were involved in a severe accident, where they were luckily able to walk away as they were wearing their seatbelts, as my brother ran and stated, "If I was not wearing my seatbelt, I am not sure I'd be here today." We all drive cars every day to get where we are going, and every time you get in the car when driving even a short distance, you should buckle up, as it might save your life. It only takes 3 seconds to buckle up. Today I'll be discussing the importance of buckling up every time you're in a vehicle, starting off with discussing the history of seatbelts, the laws enforced to make sure you are wearing seatbelts, and how seatbelts are an effective safety device. First, I'll discuss the history of the seatbelt. The seatbelt was invented a long time ago in 1885, as stated by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The first seatbelt patent was secured in 1885 by Edward J. Cleghorn of New York. They weren't put into cars until much later. The three-point safety belt, as we all know it so well today as the seatbelt, was invented by Volvo's first safety engineer, Niels Bohlin, in 1959, as stated by the Center for Auto Safety. Niels Bohlin, a design engineer with Volvo in Sweden, patents the basics of proper restraint systems for the occupants, better known as the three-point safety belt. The device comprises of 2 straps, a lap strap, and a shoulder strap. The seatbelt, as we know it today, became mandatory equipment in every vehicle as of 1968. As according to thehistory.com, in the interest of safety, Volvo made the new seatbelt design available to other manufacturers for free. It was required on all new American cars from 1968 onward. Since the seatbelt was invented, the seatbelt has saved countless lives, as stated by the National Highway Traffic Administration in the United States. Alone, seatbelts save more than 11,000 lives each year. Now that I've discussed the history of the seatbelt, now we'll discuss the laws enforced to ensure people are wearing their seatbelts. Laws are enforced to make sure you're wearing your seatbelt, and how effective the laws are at getting people to wear seatbelts. Today there are several laws that enforce the usage of seatbelts. Today nearly all states in the United States, including Wisconsin, have laws to ensure you're wearing your seatbelt. To keep yourself safe, as stated by the Insurance for Institute for Highway Safety, there are many mandatory laws, safety seatbelts in all states except for New Hampshire. To ensure everyone is safe when getting into their vehicle, Wisconsin is known as a primary enforcer of wearing seatbelts, as stated by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Effective June 30th, 2009, Wisconsin has what is known as a primary enforcement seatbelt law. A primary enforcement law allows an officer to stop and ticket for not wearing a seatbelt like any other violation, like speeding. They're hoping with primary enforcement to get more people to wear seatbelts, as stated by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Where primary enforcement law exists, seatbelt usage is higher. Thanks to these laws, more people are wearing their seatbelts, but sadly, some people still don't. Primary laws result in higher rates of seatbelt usage, as stated by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Observed seatbelt use in 2016 was 92% in states with primary enforcement, but only 83% in states without. However, even with these laws that make not wearing a seatbelt illegal, however, not everyone wears a seatbelt, as stated by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. 1 in 7 still do not wear a seatbelt. Now that I have discussed the different laws to make sure we are all keeping ourselves safe by buckling up, I now want to discuss how effective a seatbelt is as a safety device and why they are so effective. Lastly, seatbelts are effective life-saving devices as long as people are wearing them. Today, seatbelts save countless lives. Seatbelts are the most effective way to stay safe in an accident, as the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, states, wearing a seatbelt is the most effective way to prevent serious injuries in a crash. By wearing a seatbelt, you can reduce the risk of an accident by 45%, as is stated by the Centers for Disease Control. Seatbelts dramatically reduce risk of death and serious injury among drivers and front passengers. Seatbelts reduce risk of death by 45% and cut the risk of serious injury by 50%. If people would have taken the 3 seconds to simply buckle up, an additional 22,456 people could have been saved in 2016, as according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Of the 37,461 people killed in motor vehicles crashes in 2016, 48% were not wearing their seatbelt. In 2016 alone, seatbelts saved an estimated 14,668 lives and could have saved an additional 2,456 if they had simply worn their seatbelt. Seatbelts are specifically designed to prevent serious injury or even death in an accident. You simply have to put them on. In an accident, the seatbelt is meant to use to keep you safe and secure in a vehicle, but can only serve their purpose if you wear it. The second of Newton's 3 laws tells us that why seatbelts in cars are specifically designed to keep us safe, as stated by sciencing. The second of Newton's 3 laws of motion tells us that applying a force on an object produces an acceleration proportional to the object's mass. When you're wearing a seatbelt, it supplies the force to decelerate you in the event of a crash, so it keeps you safe. However, when not wearing a seatbelt, this life-saving device, it can be deadly, as stated by sciencing. The force required to stop a 150-pound person traveling at 60 miles per hour in 5 seconds is 1,800 pounds. If the car hits an object and stops suddenly, that force goes up to 9,000 pounds. In the absence of seatbelts, the force is applied by the windshield, and the impact is more than enough to kill the person. In conclusion, today I urge you to fasten your seatbelts. Every time you are in a car discussing the history of seatbelts, the laws enforced to make sure you're wearing a seatbelt, and how effective a seatbelt is as a safety device. Some of you may say that you forget to put on your seatbelt sometimes, but the one time you forget, may be the time you're injured or killed. So please buckle up. It only takes a few seconds. If you don't, you may regret it, sitting in a wheelchair, or you may not even have a chance to regret it. Let's get the use of the seatbelts up to 100%. As Consumer Reports stated, we are 88%, and we need to get it all the way up to 100%.